He left home for just a few months, only to return and find strangers standing where his childhood house used to be. A luxury hotel gleamed under the Georgia sun, built right on his family's soil. The local HOA said it was abandoned property, but Marcus Thompson knew the truth. His father's sweat and name were still written in that dirt. They thought he'd never come back. They thought he'd stay silent. But when he walked into that hotel lobby, everything changed. Because what the HOA didn't know was that the very law they used to steal from him would soon hand him the keys to everything they built. Marcus Thompson had lived in Maplewood, Georgia, his entire life. The land he owned wasn't just property. It was his father's dream turned into soil. Every inch of it carried the echoes of family barbecues, childhood laughter, and his father's deep voice saying, "Son, land is power. Never let it go." When his father passed, Marcus promised he never would. The taxes were paid, the fence was fixed, and the deed rested safely in his name. Then came the overseas job, 6 months of security work that would finally let him rebuild the old house. Before leaving, Marcus did everything right. Paid dues, locked gates, told his neighbor, Mr. Daniels, to keep an eye out. But when he returned, the road looked different. Trees he'd grown up climbing were gone. A new parking lot stretched across what used to be his mother's garden. And there, towering high, stood a glass-front hotel with bright banners and a name that twisted his stomach. Maplewood Suites, a project by the Maplewood Homeowners Association. For a moment, he couldn't move. How could a lifetime of memories disappear overnight? He walked into the hotel lobby, his heart pounding like a drum. The air smelled of expensive perfume and polished marble. Behind the counter, the manager looked confused. "Sir, are you lost?" "No," Marcus said, his voice steady. "You are." That night, standing by the roadside, he stared at the glowing building on his land and whispered to himself, "You built your walls on my father's roots. Let's see how deep they go." Marcus went straight to the county clerk's office. The smell of old paper and cold coffee hit him as he stepped in. "I need property records for 1125 Maplewood Drive," he said. The clerk barely looked up. After a few minutes of typing, she frowned. That parcel was rezoned under community redevelopment. Transferred to the HOA 6 months ago. Marcus blinked. "Transferred? That's impossible. I never sold it." "Sir, it says here it was abandoned." That word sliced through him. Abandoned. He leaned closer. "Do you see these tax records?" He laid out receipts with precise dates and payment confirmations. "Does that look abandoned to you?" The clerk hesitated, her tone shifting. "If that's true, something isn't right." That was the moment Marcus realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a setup. He spent days digging through county files, sleepless nights cross-checking every form. The deeper he looked, the uglier it got. A false notice of abandonment filed by the HOA. A forged signature confirming neglect. A zoning inspector who just happened to be the HOA president's cousin, approving redevelopment. When Marcus showed up at the next HOA meeting, whispers rippled through the room. Rows of well-dressed members froze as he walked in. "Mr. Thompson," the chair said smoothly, "we followed all procedures. If you have concerns, you can appeal." Marcus studied their smug smiles. He knew that look, the kind people gave when they thought power was permanent. "Appeal?" he said quietly. "I'm not appealing. I'm taking back what's mine." Laughter broke out around the table. "Good luck suing us," one man sneered. Marcus didn't respond. He just walked out, calm as a storm waiting to break. That night, he found Alana Price, a young civil rights attorney who specialized in land discrimination. When she heard his story, she didn't hesitate. "They picked the wrong man to mess with," she said. Together, they uncovered everything. Fake paperwork, illegal filings, and years of HOA corruption targeting black homeowners. Marcus filed a lawsuit. News spread fast. Local reporters called it the land that fought back. Activists joined. Old neighbors spoke out. Every hearing was another battle. The HOA tried to bribe him, to wear him down, even sending false inspections to his temporary apartment. But Marcus didn't waver. because for the first time he wasn't just fighting for his property. He was fighting for every person who'd ever been told they didn't belong in their own neighborhood. The courtroom was tense that morning. Rows of polished shoes and stiff suits filled the benches. Marcus sat in silence beside Alana, clutching the old deed his father had once held. The HOA's attorney spoke first, painting Marcus as negligent. He left the land empty, overgrown, unmaintained. The HOA acted within its rights to protect the community. Then Alana stood. Her voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut glass. Protect the community, or protect their profits? She placed document after document before the judge. Altered forms, falsified reports, duplicate signatures. Then she lifted the deed. The ink slightly faded but still clear. "This is the original," she said. "Dated, notarized, and untouched. Marcus Thompson never sold his land, never signed it over, and every inch of that hotel still stands on property that legally belongs to him." The room went silent. The judge reviewed everything. You could hear the faint hum of the air conditioning as seconds dragged into eternity. Finally, he spoke. "All construction built on Mr. Thompson's property remains under his ownership. The court recognizes Marcus Thompson as the legal and rightful owner." Gasps erupted. Cameras flashed. The HOA members sat frozen, realizing the unthinkable. They'd built their empire on land they didn't own. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deep. Not from arrogance, but relief. Justice, for once, had a name that sounded like his. Outside, a reporter asked how it felt to own the very hotel they built. Marcus looked at the building gleaming behind him. "They buried my history under concrete," he said softly. "Now it's the foundation of my future." Months later, the hotel still stood, but its story had changed. A new sign hung proudly above the doors. The Thompson House. Marcus didn't destroy it. He repurposed it. The hotel now hosted youth programs, job training for locals, and small business workshops for Black entrepreneurs. The lobby once meant for tourists now welcomed community meetings and art exhibits. Every corner carried meaning. The lounge displayed photos of his father's old home. The garden replanted with magnolias from his childhood yard. The HOA dissolved quietly. Some members moved away. Others offered apologies that came too late. But Marcus wasn't driven by revenge. He wanted restoration. He wanted people to see that stolen things can be rebuilt. Not through anger, but through persistence and truth. One evening, as the sun set behind the Thompson house, he stood on the porch, hand resting on the old wooden railing. A breeze rustled through the trees that had survived. He whispered, "We're still here, Dad." Then he smiled quietly, peacefully, because sometimes victory doesn't shout. It simply stands tall. And on that ground, under the same sky his father once looked at, Marcus proved a truth too strong to erase. You can take a man's land, but you can't take his legacy.